All right, tonight we'll mention a four-letter word that sometimes causes your blood pressure to boil. Yep, we're going to talk about the Ham Radio Club. Hello and welcome to Live Free and Ham Podcast. It's our bi-weekly show where we explore ham radio topics around New Hampshire, New England, and beyond. Whether you're a first-time listener or are one of our regulars, we appreciate you guys being part of the community. So let's get into today's show. We've got a little special introductions, but first, I'm your host, Eric, call sign N1JUR. And that special news is, no, Todd didn't win the lottery and he's not handing out flexes for everyone. We've got another host to add to our ranks. So I'd like to introduce, without further ado, Paul.
Hi. Yeah, it's good to be here. It's a pleasure to be added to the crew. I got to guest on a couple, shows, live streams, and it's a ton of fun and always like hanging out with you guys. So it's great to be here, Paul, KF4TPY.
Cool. All right. Well, hey, we appreciate you, Paul, and thanks for coming to hang out with us, guys here. And, we're definitely looking forward to some future, fun stuff and antics. And Paul will definitely not disappoint. All right. So before the show, like I said, we always like to catch up and let our listeners know what's going on and where the Live Free and Ham crew is. As always, every month, we always host a live stream on our YouTube channel. Make sure you pay attention to our socials and our website, as the live show varies from month to month. But if you subscribe, you always get notified when we go live. So, and as always, you can head over to our Instagram page or our website to get more details on that. And outside of that, let's kind of dive into it. So, kicking it off with Ryan, hey, what's been going on in your world of ham radio?
Yeah, good evening, everyone. Call signs W1SNH. And, before I get into my past week of ham radio, welcome, Paul. Glad to have you a part of the group here. And, I look forward to many future recordings with you. So it's been, a continual evolution with the new radio in the shack. So I have gotten all the hardware finished, all the cables are run, and now it's taken the deep dive into the software. My mind still hasn't wrapped around totally all the functions of the Flex, or taken some of the sub menus that need to be tweaked and profiles and everything. But I'm slowly going away at chopping away at that. Been mostly just doing rag chewing with it at night when in between all house projects and work duties and family duties. So it's been slow going for right now, but looking forward to getting more comfortable with it. And the next kind of evolution on the Flex integration is going to be using a Node-RED. So I had a new Raspberry Pi got delivered, and it's sitting over here on the desk, just waiting to be plugged into the network and start some basic flows, creating those. And I'll probably start off with some downloaded pre-created ones off the internet, which other people have used. But I don't envision, well, I say this now, but I don't envision a lot of layers and integration. More just want to get, when I switch bands, the correct profile and antenna and everything gets switched over. And then the only other thing would be rotor control.
Just watch out for the squirrels then, because those will definitely come in and wreck everything and make those flows more complex than you think you ever wanted them to be.
Another kind of side project, which I'm definitely going to tackle this winter, is documentation. So I have this strong desire to, both written and in a graphical format, go through and document everything in the shack. And I'm going to separate it based on AC power, DC power, networking. It might be Node-RED flows, how coax is set up, grounding, and just put it in a picture format so that, if something does change or I need to modify something or I'm having some issue, I can go to the documentation and look at it and say, all right, what could possibly be the problem? What do I need to, to help the troubleshooting process? So
Very cool. Now, how do you use that to translate to from like paper to physical world? Is it like will you label a lot of your cabling and stuff, or is it just a matter of just you're just doing it for visual representation to kind of get you started in the troubleshooting process?
Well, it's uh, CDO because OCD should be alphabetical, and you know, it's just more of just I don't know, just making sure everything's just logically laid out. So yes, I'll put some labels on the coax, and it's just like in networking, and I have a whole bunch of Ethernet going everywhere, and over time, I kind of lost track of which cable goes where. So I need to spend the time, tone everything out, and document it. And
Very
I
cool.
wish I kept up with it from the very beginning, but it'll be a worthwhile project once it's all finished.
It is a full-time job for sure. I commend you on wanting to do that. I think I sort of started it myself, but if I go back, I'm sure it's totally all like upside down and left and right. But yeah, dude, that is definitely a good step to keep your sanity in the process, trying to figure out what went wrong and why it went wrong.
Yes. So now that's it for the week. I have some long-term practically I'm not going to get to them till springtime, but new antenna plans, some new wire antennas. So we
Yeah,
talked
go
about that
box
in
to
the future.
make too.
Yes, we do have
And
the
some
go box
grounding.
for
And
your
put in Todd's grounding rods, and I have to come over and set up his DX commander. So, hey, Paul, what do you have to do for Todd?
Nothing. Oh no, I did tell Todd that I would take him over to Russell Abbott State Park.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, you got the easiest of all of it.
There you go.
Anyway, so that's a good segue. Todd, what's been going on in your ham radio life?
My ham radio life. Well, I did a trip to Mississippi and had to go 2 days because I had to be there for the 30th and then the first. So did an afternoon visit and then a quick morning visit and then headed back home. But while I was there, I realized since I've been going down there for so long, I never really looked on a map of how far Louisiana was, and it's not that far.
Oh.
So even though the place I had to go was in the opposite direction, I drove 2 hours to Louisiana and activated a park there. And so I picked that state up because I don't think I'll be going to Louisiana anytime soon. And that was good. No one was there. It was kind of raining. I did have the car and I set up the antenna in the parking lot. And guy comes over, does an illegal dump in the park, throws his trash in the thing. Then he's watching me, and then he comes by, and I was in a black rent-a-car, and he goes, "You FBI? You sure you're not FBI?" And he's like going on, and I'm like, "Listen, man, I am not FBI. I'm doing ham radio." And he goes, "You sure do look like you're FBI." He goes, "I was just dumping my stuff. I don't want to get." I said, "Listen, I don't think the FBI is going to be caring if you're dumping your garbage in the dumpster." So then one of the guys in the club, John, he worked me on 10 meters and he needed Mississippi. And I said, I'm going to Mississippi. I'll go right now. So I packed up, drove about 45 minutes, crossed the border, went to another park, and it was getting dark and 10 meters was dead. So I only had 20 meters and he couldn't hear me. But I told him, I said, I'll get up in the morning and after I see this kid, I'll come back to the airport and there's a park maybe about 15 minutes away. I'll go there and try to work you then. And of course, 10 meters, there must have been like a solar flare or something. It was just nothing there. I didn't hear anyone on it. I got one contact. It was just dumb. And the guy was like,
Mississippi's a black hole. Didn't you know that?
Yeah, yeah. So I had to do 20 meters again. And unfortunately, he didn't get Mississippi. But so I ended up doing 3 parks in 2 days in 2 states. So pretty good time.
Very cool. Nice. Cool. All right. Well, so I skipped over. Well, I didn't skip over. We usually go with our guests and esteemed hosts. But anyway, Paul. So what's been going on in your ham radio world?
Well, so let's see. I've got the POTA pack fairly well situated. I lightened it up a bit. We're down to 30 pounds. Actually, it's just under 30 pounds. And then I spent a lot of the week trying to integrate the boom mic that's here on the desk with my 7300 and the sound from the 7300 and getting all that to work together. And I'm proud to say that I had a very good recording of me making a contact with a gentleman in South America yesterday. So it's all working very well. And I do apologize to anybody from the 3916 nets I didn't realize my foot switch broke the night before last, and so we're having a conversation on Discord, and I'm unknowingly transmitting the entire conversation over three nights. Yeah, 3916 net. So I sent I sent their net control guy an email apologizing, but yeah, I felt awful about it. The spring broke in the foot switch, and so it just fell on transmit.
Open mode.
It was
Oh,
like that for 3 days.
No. I caught it. I caught it. It was, maybe only like 5 or so minutes, but still,
Okay.
like when you're trying to run a net and you get somebody inadvertently transmitting on top of you, like I felt awful about it. So I did reach out and I apologized, but yeah, these things happen.
Well, and that is the, any of those sad hams that are listening, that is the proper way to be able to handle a lot of, things and those issues. So, take great heat advice. Even though it was his mistake, it was still the better way to take it. And applaud you for that, man. I would have never noticed that, and it probably would have been there for quite a long time before I really ran into it. I've made dumb mistakes too by playing with WSJTXZ and leaving that running in auto answer mode, and it came back 2 days later and went, holy crap, I've got over 150 contacts. I don't know like how I did that. And yeah, I realized I left WSJTXZ running in auto god mode, which I advise nobody ever to do unless you're monitoring it, but I don't know. The long
Definitely
story.
walk away.
Yeah, exactly. It's like I'm not going to apologize to 150 people for saying, "Hey, I did make a contact with you, but I didn't really make a contact with you." So cool. All right. Well, good on that one. So for me, my week has been kind of a little crazy. I've been trying to get a few videos out the door, and I set kind of myself a goal that if you're a subscriber of my own channel, I'm trying to do what I'm calling the 7 days of my kilo, and so I'm going to be for the next 7 days, creating videos on trying to get close to my kilo for Reed's Ferry. I'm tired of sitting on my bucket list and realize that if I don't use at least this week to try to see if I can get the last 200 and some odd contacts under my belt and get that part kiloed, that I don't know. I don't know what I call myself, a cottonhead ninny muggins or something like that. I don't know. I'll have to figure that one out. Whatever title I want to put on my shirt, but that's what I'm shooting for. So I figured if I force myself to do videos every day and I force myself to get out there and activate for at least an hour, it's literally 5 minutes down the street. There's no reason why I can't go do it. I just find every excuse, or something gets my, time. So, I wanted to make that a goal. And so that's what I'm shooting out for. And, outside of that, I've been just, playing, more with flex, as Ryan said, and trying to, get my head wrapped around some of the, advanced features in it and learning how to set up profiles myself too. Every time I think I've got it, somehow I go and screw them all up again and have to do a reset and reload from where I last left off. So my advice, Ryan, is back up, and then that way, if you mess anything up, you can go back to where at least you were in a working state.
One thing I was thinking of is I need to do a manual antenna switch to bypass the flex and just go to the good old standby ICOM 7300. Just so
so you know exactly it's still working.
If I need a break and I just want to play radio instead of chase down issues down a rabbit hole here, it's switch over to the ICOM and just play radio.
Yep. It's funny you say that, because like we laugh and we're all pretty technically savvy. I mean, if we're not, we can put our heads to the grindstone and figure it out. Todd, you're shaking your head no, but I know you figured out some stuff and you magically said to yourself, "Wow, I figured it out." At least you put the effort to do that. I read the Flex, Facebook chats, and there are people that are talking about like, I press the PTT button on my remote and nothing happens, and then that's it. Like that's the extent. They can't figure it out. So someone has kind of like spent the time setting it up, and they spent a good $6 to $8 grand on this whole setup for the lack of zero benefit, because they can't get their PTT to key the radio or something. So I'm starting to feel the pain.
Well, I was able to take my computer cover off, which was a first for me. Very impressed with the inside of my computer. A lot different than the last one I did, which was like 20 years ago. And I was able to add to some USB and USB-C ports in. So, but
Yeah,
the
it
hardest
didn't
thing,
catch fire.
it didn't, it's working. And the only thing I didn't know how to get the stupid, I'm like, how do I get this thing off? I didn't realize it was like soft metal, and I just pushed it and it bent over. I'm like, oh, look at that. Perfect.
And all its fails,
Like
bend
I
it one
was
way.
thinking I had to take the whole thing apart, go on Amazon. I'm looking for a different piece that has two, and then I'm like, oh, look at that. It just pops out.
Very cool. All righty. Well, so with all that, let's kind of dive into tonight's topic. It's a hot button for some, and for others, it's a whole new world. But what we want to do is, kind of talk around ham radio clubs themselves. When depending on what walk of or what phase of life you're in, whether you're a new ham or you've been around and you're seasoned ham or you're on the sad ham scale, when people mention ham radio club, it brings up a lot of different emotions, and both of them can be positive and both of them can be negative. But what we want to kind of do tonight is, share with our audience, if you're a new ham, or say you're even, you've been in the, ham hobby for, 10, 15 years, maybe tried clubs and then decided it wasn't your, cup of tea. We're hoping we're kind of, can persuade you to kind of take another step and give a shot and, and get into clubs, because we have seen a big push and a big, kind of conversation from both the ARL perspective and, just in, the small circles and YouTube and the internet space, where people, have gravitated towards, a non-standard kind of version of what, we deem as a ham radio club. And all of them have gotten some great, stuff that they've learned from it. They've created some great relationships. But at the same time, we want to bring to the light that, there are local clubs that are in your area that, that probably with just a little bit of extra help, or someone who had kind of desire to make the club, to bring some fun or functionality or, activities to the club, could make the club that so much better. So we're going to kind of talk a little bit around that tonight. And we're going to try to stay away from, all of the pains and hurts, because, with everything, once you get involved with it, sometimes, people can injure you, but that's not where we're going with tonight. We want to make sure that we, give you some good tips and hopefully some suggestions to, get back involved in your local club in your area. So let's kind of talk this through a little bit. So, what from your perspective, guys, and who wants to take the lead with this one, what do we want, what are we looking for? What are you looking for when we talk of like what a good club to you would be like?
I'll start there. I think for me, a good club is one where you can go there and ask a lot of questions. There's always in any group, there's going to be a range of talents and experience. But, for me going in as a new ham, there's some concepts or some things I don't understand, and just being able to ask that question. I mean, you can always, yes, YouTube's great and Googling everything and, going online for stuff, but to have someone who, has the work experience and the education and the background of, everything electronic, RF and circuits and HF theory, having them sit down with you over a cup of coffee during your weekly club meeting and say, here's the, explain it to me like I'm 5. And they just break it down for you. It makes a world of a difference. So for me, having a club that has people like that who are engaging and want to help, I mean, that's huge. So that's one aspect. I got a couple other things, but I'll let the others jump in here.
So Paul, Todd, you guys have any input on what you think makes a good club in that sense?
Well, I guess you gotta kind of differentiate in a way, right? Because you get in-person local clubs, and then you've got online clubs, and they both have their own pros and cons. I think for myself, one of the biggest benefits for having a local club is getting to meet and know people like you guys. Like I mean, Eric, yeah, you've helped me get my my dipole up 3 times.
I know, right?
Like if it wasn't for the local club, though, I mean, you and I might not have ever met, and we wouldn't have had that opportunity to be able to help each other.
And your
Uh,
dipole would still probably be on the ground, but yeah, possibly.
it, it at least wouldn't be as high, that's for sure. Yeah.
Cool.
I think for me, I think it's a club that's very welcoming, club that wants to expand, treat you like when I first came to our club and I met everyone, it was very, hey, welcome. If you have any questions, I mean, everyone was very personal, upfront, genuine. I've been in other hobbies, I've been to clubs and very clicky. If like where they've got their crew and then everyone that's just them. Our club is very non-clicky. We have a lot of good guys, a lot of people with different interests and stuff, but we always all get together and some of us break out and do things that we're more into than others. But I think really our club getting together and meeting and hanging out with everyone, you get a little bit of everything. And I thought that this club, out of all the ones I joined, because when I was a technician, I joined everyone. Like I was like, oh, I got to join this club. I got to join this club. Like any repeater I was ever on, oh, there's a club. Oh, okay, I'll join. And I just found our club to be just the most friendly and the most almost like I guess the word would be real. Like they were just real. They were like, hey, welcome. We're glad you're here. Welcome. There's so much to learn. You're gonna have a blast. You're gonna love this. And that's kind of how I got in there. And then I met all you guys. So it was all good.
So it sounds like, based off of, all your different viewpoints, did you find like what I'll call the first contact of most people engaging in, meeting you um, from time to time? Do you feel like it's, that was what, brought you or led you at least in the door to, starting to get involved into the club? Or was it like multiple kind of people just meeting you and saying hello and introducing you? Kind of what was that experience for you guys on an individual level? How about you, Ryan?
Well, actually, one of the things that started with is, you know, I think a good club that has multi-layered media and points of contact for the different members. So for our club,
Oh, like elaborate, like more like
yeah,
Discord, email, that type of stuff, or
well,
different?
so on one end of the discussion could be Discord, which, there's always good conversations going on there. Or the other end would be the weekly breakfast at the local cafe up the road. You know, both
Okay.
are unique and they have their strengths and weaknesses. But I think having more, it's hobbies about people. So having more points of contact for everyone to connect and ask questions and integrate and just, talk with one another, the better. So,
Okay. That's definitely good. So
uh,
that sounds like it's a core requirement for most people in general. Would you say?
yes.
Okay.
Now, an interesting thing though is, so for example, my brother, he's interested in ham radio, and I had a friend that just moved out of town and into the Midwest, and the driving distance between towns and everything is just so much bigger. Um, we're very blessed here in New England to have. There's a lot of clubs local to us. There's a lot of repeaters local to us. The density of ham radio activity around us is pretty high. I mean, we have a candy store within, a 30-minute drive,
That's
which is
blessing
huge.
in disguise. Yes.
You know, but how do you get into the hobby and have all these benefits of a club when you're, much further out? But one thing I think of is, and I had done it in the past, I need to renew it, but Long Island CW Club, they do a great program of promoting CW, and it's 100% online on Zoom.
Mhm.
But I mean, they're super active and they have 2 or 3 Zoom meetings a day. And if you can't make one, you can do another. And if you miss Monday night, you could get on Tuesday night, and it's they make it work. So just because a club's not totally local to you, it's not the end of the world. So
Definitely a good point there. I mean, especially like, if you're a new ham, like you said, if your brother's ham curious or getting into that sense, that is like critical, obviously, to be able to get answers. But obviously, don't don't shy away from turning away from like internet resources or things like Brian said, like CW and this Long Island CW club, or I know Paul, you're part of a Discord crew that's was that Flag and Torch, I think it was, similar to that same thing. Mute. You're muted. We love you, Paul, but we want to hear you.
Apologize. I didn't realize I hit the mute button. But yeah, so Flag and Torch Society is up there. It's a fantastic group. It's mostly military guys. There are some supporters, but many of the board are still active duty, and they're spread out across the country. And so we're heavily reliant on things like Discord and the website.
Mhm.
We're talking about starting to put together like rolling HF nets where like we'll get everybody on and we'll do relays and whatever, just so that we can start practicing communication amongst ourselves as well. Being military guys, we're all about preparedness, and the more you practice, the better prepared you are.
Nice.
But yeah, and you definitely don't want to discount the ability even for local clubs to interact online. Like I use our local club Discord, and once you see it right there,
shameless plug.
yeah, I use Discord for our local club all the time because whenever I want to ask a technical question, I know that W1WRA is usually around to fill in that gap and answer my technical questions. And sometimes I'll ask a question that's just kind of silly and dumb, and I just want to get some feedback, and
Yep.
the club is great for that.
Yeah, very cool. How about you, Todd? So I know you kind of have, an interesting past of, club involvement and stuff. And so, what's that kind of look like for you?
I learned about our club just when I was studying. I was listening on a scanner, our daily nets, 7 p.m. nets that our club does every night. And so I heard them all and I said, oh, I got to check this club out. And I figured out through the nets that they were in Bedford. And I'm like, okay, they're very local, and yeah, let's try it out. So they were the first one I signed up for. And like I said, I went to the first meeting and people were very it just felt like it was smaller than some of the other clubs. I did join a bigger club, but I felt like I was just like another paying member of like thousands, where it
Right.
was more personal, I think, with our club. And I haven't I would go to the meetings. I think it was like I started, it was like during COVID. So a lot of it was on Zoom. So I didn't recognize anyone, but I remember when I saw the first person I had talked to on the repeater outside of the net and I saw what they looked like. I was like, wow, that's not what I thought he looked like. But
Yeah.
but it was just really good, and then it's just kind of grown from there. So that's just me personally. I mean, some people like the bigger nets. I mean the bigger clubs. One of the local clubs around here, it's very big. It's got an unbelievable website, a lot of resources that I used a lot. They actually have a net once a week, and it's almost like a net where they teach you how to be good on it, like what the net rules are, how do you reply, how do how does it go? And every net's different, but so I did them for a while, and then I did a repeater that was on the Interstate Repeater Society, and they don't have meetings; they're just on the repeater all the time.
Mhm.
So I've talked to and know a lot of those guys, but I've never met them. But I get on that repeater and I call my, hey Todd, what's going on?
Yeah.
How's
Like
it
old
been?
friends.
Yeah, so I find that all hams out there, even on HF and they're all very friendly, and everyone's willing to help. But our club, I think, is really cool because we do things, and people are genuine, and we're very into helping everyone out, and also people seem to care like what's going on in your life. So
Yeah. Yeah. That's a really good, points there. I mean, in essence, club can be many things to many people. And I think one of the big things is where you kind of fit in and where the reciprocation process kind of comes from. Like if you find you go into a club, and I've been to a few clubs that, that you feel like you go into and you're like, you're the only one sitting off to the side, and no one's really come to say hello to you. There's not as a welcoming kind of
Yeah,
approach.
you're like the new kid in the cafeteria, and you're sitting
Yeah.
by yourself, and no
Yeah.
one's talking to you.
Or if we're going to go to old times, the guy has leprosy, you don't want to deal with him. So, we kind of move along with that process. And so, those are kind of key indicators for me. So like when I got the benefit very early on when I was, getting my ticket way back in '93. I had a chance to had some Boy Scout leaders who brought me into the ham radio club in town, and they were like, instead of like looking at youth and saying, they should remain quiet, they were like, oh, dude, come be loud, come, play radio, come play with, whatever you can, let me see what we can do to help you. I think our club, and one thing we might have not mentioned, is that a good club asks questions more than they just give answers a lot of times. And I think Ryan kind of touched upon that a little bit. Like, there's space for us to always ask questions and always ask either the really dumb, insane, kind of like, why does 1+1 = 2, to, hey, how do I, take the green wire and make it ground, all of those things in between. And that's really like a critical kind of thing to both your growth as a, in the hobby, and, hopefully maybe an inspiration for you to want to kind of get better. So, what's is there anything in like a club format that we, as we kind of dive into a little bit, because let's kind of talk a little bit just for like our experiences of like what we've dealt with on a local level from a club perspective. Like, do you are you familiar, do you mind like the formats that they fall into? Because a traditional club for me, and let me kind of frame it out a little bit, traditional club kind of follows like the typical, if you go in hybrid or you go in person, you meet people for a couple minutes, and then you sit down, you go through the Pledge of Allegiance, you do the typical standard, club type format, old news, old news, new business, that type of stuff. And then you get into the guest speaker, and then if you're, there's some time after, there's usually some conversation and introductions, and people kind of commingle. That tends to turn some folks off, at least maybe some of the younger generation. Did you find that for yourself when you guys went into these clubs or were a part of these clubs, or was it just like, it was just a whole new experience and you were okay with, kind of the format?
I think, pretty much every meeting I've been in has followed, they use the Roberts rules of, a meeting. So,
Yeah.
that's typical. I think it's all the extracurricular activities, it's like, hey, we're having, a holiday party in 2 weeks. So bring your significant other, or we're having what's on your workbench, on a Zoom meeting, once a month through the wintertime. These different range of activities, I think, is what keeps it interesting. So for me, I think more the better.
Okay. So super, so from your standpoint, turn it up to 11. If the club's super active, it doesn't really matter what's going on, as long as there's a lot of stuff going on that, you find that's a plus in your plus category then.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, it's all ham radio related. And if, if my schedule allows, I'm going to participate. So.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's important that the more activities, and it's not like everyone in the club has to do every activity, right? Like, there might be a CW day, and if people don't do CW, obviously they're not going to be interested in that. But I do think like our club, we've, the last couple of years that I've been with the club, we've had field day, and I think that brings people together. But there are guys in our club that don't operate on field day, but they do come and hang out and check out and say hi and maybe just observe. But I think that's really good too. And the guys that want to play radio and get on there and participate and make contacts, great. Those that want to not do that and just hang out and say hi and see what everyone's doing, I mean, that's great too. So, but I agree. I think doing things as a club that pertains to whatever the subject. So for us, ham radio, like, yeah, we should be doing ham radio stuff. I also like the idea of like going to the events, getting a group of people together. When we go to Near Fest, typically the club meets and gets breakfast, and then we all kind of split up, but then run into each other, while we're at Near Fest. So that's kind of another kind of cool thing where we kind of get together, split off in our own ways, and then come back together and then and talk about it. So it's all good.
Cool. How about you, Paul?
Yeah, well, I mean, so I would echo, a lot of the things that have been said. and even add to that, like, I mean, so this hobby, like many hobbies, can very much be an individual thing where, it's just you and it's your radio and you're, doing your own thing, making contacts, however you choose to do so. There are so many different facets to this hobby. But it's so much more enjoyable when you can do it with other people that share in those joys, right? And so, and it's okay to, just like go to a field day and take it all in, right? Like my first field day, that's what I did. It was my first experience with the club, other than I think I had gone to a Saturday morning at the barn. But that was my first like real experience with the club. And I was truly trying to get my feelers, and see what it was all about, where I kind of wanted to be and where I wanted to fit in. And up until field day, this club was more responsive on the repeater with help and information. And the people that I had interacted with on our club's repeater were just, much more friendly and much more, engaging. And so that was what prompted me to spend my first field day with this club. And yeah, I just took it all in. I didn't actually start advancing, club things, until the next field day. And that's okay. And now, like I was never into contesting. I've only been a ham for 3 years, almost 3 years. But contesting was a thing that scared me. It scared me. But I mean, you see what they do on Unity Mountain. Like they're contesting all the time, and they share that information with the club. I took part in my first contest in November, and it was a ton of fun and it was exciting. So
that's awesome.
Yeah. So the moral of the story, I guess, that I'm trying to get to is just enjoy what you do and find other people that want to do it with you.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. I mean, my thing is I thought I was just going to be a technician and that was going to be it. And then I met Eric, and he like really kind of bullied me into getting my general, but no, he didn't really. I'm glad he did. He what? Yeah. I work with kids, that's what they say. I was bullied. Anyway, but what he said, one of the things that was cool is like for me, I didn't know, I mean, I didn't really know what POTA was, and he did it. And when I got my general, we were coming back, we went to do the first park, and I sucked at it. I didn't know what to say. I was nervous, but I kept doing it and doing it and doing it. And then I remember when I had my first real pile up, and I just got into this groove, and it was basically everything he had taught me and told me how to do it. And then as I was in this pile up, he's texting me, "You're doing great. Keep going, keep going." So I'm trying to do the pile up. I'm looking at my text messages. Yeah, it was kind of crazy. But anyway, my point is, I really was nervous, like you were. Like, I don't think I can do this. And my first field day, I showed up. I wasn't there the whole day, and he was working a station. He goes, "Come on, sit down. You got to do this." And I'm like, "No, no, 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 no. I'll just watch. I'll just watch." But he kind of said, "You got to make one contact." So I did. Thought it was pretty cool. I reached Pennsylvania. I was pretty psyched. I'm like, "Holy cow! I got
Far
all the way
distant DX.
I know. I got all the way to Pennsylvania." So, but yeah, but it was like kind of like, getting a little taste of it. And then once I got my general and I started doing parks, I really got into it. And then I did do the New Hampshire, what was it? The New Hampshire, what is the one we do, like QSO party, I
Oh
think.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
And like a year later, I get this thing in the mail saying like I won something. Remember? I got like second or
We're all
third.
surprised.
I was like, what? Like, what are you talking about? Like, I had no idea. So I guess I made a lot of contacts. But that was the thing that was really like I was really scared. I used to watch, I mean, you guys I think like totally geeked out, but I used to watch YouTube people live working stations, like working pileups. And
I still do.
right. And I was like, I can't, how am I ever gonna do that? How am I ever gonna do that? And when I did it, it was and the first time I did it, I said, "Oh, that's how they do it. That's pretty awesome. This is a lot of fun." So, and now Eric did his video when we did the run,
A 7-park Rove.
the 7-park Rove, and my mother watched it and she goes, how do you know what to say and do all that? She goes, you were like talking another language. How did you do all that? I'm like, it's easy. Practice, right? Practice makes perfect. That's what you used to tell me. But, I think that was a really good example of like a club where you have a club member, you make friends, and then they teach you the stuff you don't want to know. And then, the idea is that you're going to pass it on. So,
Well, as long as it's not CW, right?
no, I want to learn that. I was at when we were at Nearfest, I went to the CW, all the things. I'm like, oh, those are pretty cool. It's like a fidget spinner. I'm always fidgeting stuff. I can make fidget CW.
We'll have to tell Bill that and see what he
Yeah,
says.
yeah. All I know is that to me, it's like another language, and I suck at learning new languages. I struggled so hard in high school and just trying to learn freaking French. I was like, it's ridiculous. So, but we'll see.
Well, so for you, Ryan, so like anything you want to kind of add to that experience and some of your experiences with obviously us and my involvement with you, because apparently it must have scarred you as well.
Well, I'm still scarred trying to learn CW, so I'm right
Yeah.
there with you, Todd. So I'm probably on my fifth attempt of trying to focus and learn the language, but well, practice makes perfect. We'll get it eventually. I don't know. I mean, it's just it comes down to people and having the interaction, and I think it is what you make of it. So for me, it's been very helpful having the Elmers there to answer those questions. That's in my mind, that's the important aspect.
Now, do you guys obviously, and so to kind of level set, like I didn't, come up with this, skill or this, process to be able to drag people in by, their ears into the hobby and getting them to do stuff, no matter how much Todd, professes that, I basically ruined his life, we'll say.
Maybe my wallet,
No,
not my life.
that, you can, Paul is the only one currently. He's relatively new to the group, but I'm sure eventually over time your wallet's gonna, you're gonna open your wallet to him too as well. So you've got a lot of projects on the back burner with Ryan. So it's only a matter of time with that. But I got the benefit, and this is kind of where I am happy with the club that we're in, and kind of one of the things that I really pick up on when I've been in it. I've been in a couple different clubs, especially when I was younger. I had a lot of people, and I think we all touched upon it in a different, little facet, is that it really is like the people when they come alongside you and they were like, hey, well, we're glad you're here. We're glad you're here, not because you're just a member or you're just another number or you're, increasing our, club, funds, but, hey, you're in the hobby. What do you like to do? And a lot of the people, even though like when I got my license, it was 93 and I had no code technician, couldn't do Morse code to save my life. And so I never really got a chance to do HF until I got a chance to do field day. And so I would wait 1 day out or one weekend out of the year. And it was always during field day. And that would be my like shining moment, because I just learned that, I felt that like if I didn't get a chance to get in there and start making contacts and doing, those things in the HF world, that I was just going to miss out, because I only really had repeaters at the time, and it was always fun, but I felt like they always kind of like as a 19-year-old, 20-year-old, they weren't really talking my language and they didn't really know what was going on, but they were still helpful, and they always invited me in a conversation. But I think that's kind of the same dynamic in our club, and that's kind of what I like to promote. And those are the people you kind of want to find, are like the ones that are super excited about the the club, and they're inviting you in, and they're basically giving you the somewhat of the answers to your questions, but more so like, hey, like come take this journey with me. And that's really kind of what I think a good club does, is that it realizes that no matter where you're at in your journey, that eventually you're going to get to some of those things like CW or playing FT8 or getting your general ticket, but all of those things all build into this great hobby that we get to play in. And because we have field days and places like that, you get to drag those people in that might not be a technician or have licensing at all, and give it a shot and try. And we all know that once you get your first contact, you just can't sit back and say, I've got my first contact, I'm all done, I can't do any more than I just I'm going to go on to my next underwater basket weaving hobby or something like that, and leave it at that. But is there, I think in one, we kind of touched upon it. It's really, really, a good kind of segue is, do you feel like, in terms of the club as a whole, and whether you're an online club or you're in a physical local club, is there anything that you'd like to kind of see or improve upon, that that you would like to do more of or have more of? Is there an area that you have a desire that you're seeing starting to grow, or what are those areas? I should maybe step back. So what are those areas, like, do you see in a club that either are absent, or maybe are starting to get planted and grow in that area? Do you feel like, yeah, maybe, I don't know. I mean, it's kind of one of those things I'm trying to think of. Like, if you're looking at a club, what is the best approach, for you and yourself to get into when it comes to, just building those long-term relationships? Because there is, we all know the ham radio hobby, and this is, I guess, where I was getting to, is that we have an age gap. We all agree that, the older generation that's in there is a little older, and the younger guys that are coming up. Do you find that there's a contention or an issue there, or do you find that you want to embrace something like that more often, and you feel like that if you embrace it, it's a better approach than just kind of ignoring it and hoping they go away?
I think I'm thinking back 10 plus years ago where I'd been ham curious and looking into the hobby. You heard a lot of sentiments and comments online and art magazine articles that the hobby's dying. We're fading away, and all the old timers and the old Elmers are becoming silent keys, and it's just not as popular with the young kids anymore. And we have everything's digital and IP based. And I think with the big boom, it's kind of like a renaissance time right now of we it's kind of all happening at one time with the whole YouTube phenomena, the whole digital modes, FT8, the access to cheap, lightweight, really cool, efficient, affordable radios. Kind of the past, I don't know, I'll say even 10 plus years. It's I think we've turned a corner in the hobby, and it's actually it's becoming more and more popular. And I think we are getting a lot more young people in it. I think having, if a club has just one age bracket of members, I mean, that's fine. That's okay. In my life, I have a wide range of aged friends, but I think a club that has a wider range of membership, I think it's better. So
Okay.
I don't know.
Yeah.
And I don't think that's right or wrong. I think it's just the fact of demographics and the population around your area and your club.
Yeah, that's like my other hobby, the flying the model airplanes and stuff. We're always trying to get younger people involved because, if you don't, the club will eventually die, right?
Sure.
Like they won't be around anymore and there won't be a club. I always like to try to get kids involved, younger kids that are interested, teenagers in both the clubs that I'm in. One of the things I'm planning on doing this year is I work. I'm assigned to a school in Hudson, New Hampshire, and they have a CTE program. And there's a couple people in there that are hams, and I want to go out there and let kids try it. Go out there and set up in the field, you know, hang out there all day and have kids come out there and try to introduce them to the hobby. And hopefully we'll have good band conditions, and they'll be making contacts around the world. And it might be a good a good way to get people in. And again, the hobby is changing, and like you said, I was a kid. I used to listen to it. I had no idea what it was. I didn't even know what a ham was. I knew there was ham radio channels, and I used to listen to them on the scanner. um but now I think with some of these programs like POTA, POTA is a huge way. It's like field day every time you come out, because field day is about introducing people to the hobby. Well, every time I go out on POTA, I probably talk to at least someone like, what are you doing and what's this all about? And I'm passing out my flyers and explaining to them, letting them listen, offer them to try it out. And I think that's where you're going to start getting more and more things. And I think for clubs, they need to recognize that, and they need to change with the times. So as the times change, as the hobby changes, your club really needs to adapt to that. I think for our club, one of the best things we have is the repeater. So we have a repeater, and we also have that daily net. Sometimes it's 15 minutes, sometimes it's an hour. average time is probably a half an hour, 20 minutes, but it's very informal and it keeps everyone connected. Our net started because of COVID, and COVID's obviously done, and it just keeps going. And we have more and more people doing net controls, and it's just a good way to do it. It's a good way to get people interested, because you never know, if some kid's sitting on an old scanner and he hears it, he might get interested, or someone younger. For me, I would have probably gotten into ham radio a lot younger. I just didn't know anyone, and no one in my family did it. So I didn't even know where to go. And back then there was no internet and YouTube or anything, so I couldn't look anything up. I think though nowadays kids are very into digital stuff, and you know, you Google something or you type it in the search engine and YouTube, and there's all kinds of stuff going on. So again, times are changing. Clubs should change with it, but I think they should also keep to their basics and why they were founded. And our club is just about getting together and playing radio. Is the way I look at it.
Yeah.
So Todd kind of touched on like other hobbies, and I want to get to that in a second. But one of the things that I wanted to comment on in regards to the question was that I do think that there are aspects of ham radio that are dying, right? I think that in a lot of ways, the modern ham is what's called an appliance operator, right? Like we may not fully understand how to build a radio, but we can use it. We can understand the antenna theory and a lot of the other aspects, right? But for all intents and purposes, we're not building radios anymore.
Yeah, good point.
So, but I think we need to value and respect the knowledge that those that came before us have, and all of the hardship that they went through. I mean, radio is fairly easy these days. It didn't used to be that way.
It was dangerous in some cases too.
High voltage. I was talking with a guy on 40 meters last night about building a 12 meter specific amplifier, and he's like, "Yeah, it's no big deal. You could build it at home, and you probably have most of the stuff already." And I'm like, could you imagine just messing around with that kind of voltage on my desk? It's intimidating,
Yes, be fearful of crossing the wrong wire and boom.
Well, it's funny you say that, Paul, because the flying hobby, the RC flying hobby, the old days, like you got like a kit with a bunch of sticks in it, and you had to glue everything in, build it, cover it. I mean, it took you months to build your plane. And then you had to learn how to do it. And you didn't have what we have now, like where you can buddy box and have a guy fly it for you, and then you try it. And if you start crashing, they take over. And when they crash, they have to build it all over again. Nowadays, you go down to the store and for like $200, you get the whole kit and you're up and running in 10 minutes.
Todd,
So
that's how I taught myself to fly. I was 8 years old. I'd spent the entire winter building the Bosswood model, and I'd bring it to the ball field. I'd fly it for about 3 seconds, crash it, spend another 3 months fixing it.
right.
Then the next flight would be about 10 seconds. And over a period of literally about 4 years, crashing, flying, crashing, flying. I had kind of multiple airplanes going at various stages. That's how I taught myself to fly. And when I saw that buddy box and having a mentor and a flight instructor to help you, I'm like, they're cheating. That's unfair.
Well, right. I'm telling you, it's even crazier now. They have planes now that will fly, basically land and take off by themselves. Like we have a guy in the club that learned based on the technology. He learned by going through the stages of what he could and can't do. So like one of the things that they have on the planes is they limit the bank and the roll,
Sure.
right? So
yeah, all the stability, yes.
right, all on the computer. So when you bank left, right? Like the way I fly, if I bank left, I'm rolling. Like I'm going all the way around. Well, they have it's called safe mode, and it'll stop. And then you can't flip it over, or you push down and you're not going to nosedive in, it'll stop, right? So
Where's the fun in that?
Yeah, well, exactly. So what happened when I'm teaching someone, and I got this little kid coming up there, and he's got his whole plane up, and I'll forget to check, and we'll go up in the air, and all of a sudden I find it's in this safe mode. I can't fly it. I'm like, I can't get the thing down. It won't go down. It won't bank left. But when you're starting, that's a very cool way to do it. And I could see how that's newer even from when I did it. But I know that the guys that have been around a while, like that's how they did it, like Ryan did. They built, crashed, built, crashed, built, crashed. And it wasn't like nowadays everything's foam. I mean, they still have balsa planes, but they're called ARFs, where they're already pre-built. You just screw in the electronics. You don't even have to glue anything. So it's and then they have the foam planes, and now they got this stuff where you can, you crash your plane, it snaps in half, you put some glue on it, glue it together, it dries in 2 minutes, and you're up and flying again.
Mm.
So
Yeah.
again, and now
Yeah, I
we
sort of feel that way with my, when I'm in front of a rig and it's set all in CW mode, I just can't, figure it all out. I have to like do a factory reset to be able to go
yeah.
back to, sideband.
Well, remember that one field day and my radio was they were doing CW on it, and I was like, what is wrong with me? I couldn't figure anything out. I was like, that's it, I'm just reset.
Factory reset.
Or I remember, conversation during breakfast one morning, and two club members, one was, experienced Elmer, was helping the other guy, and the new ham was trying to learn CW, and just the way his fist and using the two paddles, he was tapping it out versus using just a press and squeeze technique. And this Elmer, I mean, he straightened him out in about 2 minutes. And over the next couple of weeks, he kind of got rid of his bad habit, and his CW just took off. So it was neat to see.
And he didn't ridicule him either.
Oh,
That was
no.
the good part.
No. So
So, but that's actually that, we kind of touched upon it a lot. I mean, that's really kind of what a great club looks like. I mean, it's hard to find. Yeah. And I understand that, there's definitely an age gap that we deal with and struggle with, but I think as a younger generation, and we're older, in comparison to the younger generation, but as a younger generation of them, the best thing we can do is to maybe give them a different approach, because a lot of them did it a lot on their own, and you can't discredit them for that, because that was part of how great the hobby was. But at the same time, you can't, you can learn a lot from them. You just got to kind of help them understand that, hey, you don't know a whole lot, as Paul says, I feel dumber every day I'm in this hobby, until I do ham radio. So, it's that same kind of approach. It's like, we as we can be mentors too, to the younger generation or other people that are in the same age group, and be that better light, we'll say, to encouraging people and saying, hey dude, go ahead, make mistakes. We all made mistakes. We all, we're all appliance operators, as Paul says, and
Right.
let's just do it together. So
very cool.
cool. Well, how do we wrap this all up? So I guess let's, what three things, what's like, so if we were going to give a new ham an opportunity to start looking for clubs, whether they're online or in a local environment, what three things do we want to kind of give them as takeaways to look for?
One thing over my I have a lot of hobbies, and some of the other hobbies, I built an entire custom car based on help from the forum, and you had all these experts in this specific subject giving advice and recommendations and everything. So one thing I would recommend to someone is go onto the forums, whether it be a Discord channel or find a YouTube channel or something where you can interact with the people and ask the question, hey, I'm in this location. Based on your experience, are there any clubs you can recommend? So
Okay.
Looking for
Cool.
specific advice, for your area.
Okay. So searching for that stuff, and I would throw into the ring, hey, there's always like all the big resources like ARL. Those can be sort of a crapshoot sometimes, but they're definitely going to be a good list of active clubs for sure to be able to find and get in touch with. What do you guys want to throw into the ring?
Yeah, I would. Well, go ahead, Paul.
All right. All right. So I would say look at a lot of clubs, right? There's enough of them out there. Look at a lot of clubs. Find your people, right? Ham radio is such a diverse hobby. There are so many different facets and so many niches. Find what you like and what really truly drives you, and then find those people, because they're out there. Right. So, I mean, if you're into satellite, if you're into FTH, you're into whatever, digital, single sideband, there are groups and groups and groups and groups. of just people in all these niche things. And the biggest thing is, have fun. If you don't feel dumb every day, then you're not learning. And so it's okay to feel dumb. It's okay to ask questions. Have fun doing it.
Yeah, I would say too, get on your local nets, especially like the 2 meter or 440 nets, and just hear what's going on with the clubs, see what people are doing, make connections that way. Get on the repeater, throw your call sign out there. I know, when I was new, first time I got on, I was so nervous just to put my call sign out there. I was like, well, what's going to happen when of course, you put it out there and it's silent. But I was like, oh, what if everyone calls me? But
you talk about.
Yeah, but I mean, that was easy. I just, hey, I'm new, and then people would just start throwing all kinds of stuff at you. But I guess that would be like a point is like, don't be afraid. And like you said, a lot of the clubs, if you're a brand new ham and you got your technician, the first year is free. So you might as well join them and interact with them. And then, like you said, find your people, find the club that makes you feel the most comfortable, the most welcomed, and what works for you. And then just stick with it. Then get involved. If you're out somewhere and there's not a lot of clubs around you and you're thinking of starting a club, I would definitely say one of the things I would recommend is get a repeater and have a net and use the repeater and talk during the day. I mean, our club does a lot of talking, especially during the commuting hours, before work and after work. So.
Cool. All right. Well, hey, you heard it here. I mean, those sound like three good points to kind of consider, and definitely don't be afraid to get in there and like we said, find your people, because they're definitely out there, and whether they're online or both online and local, they're definitely something out there for you. And so don't give up hope. And so we'd like to kind of hear, if you've had some experiences with clubs, let us know. Head over to our website, feel free to comment there and let us know. Or we always have a Discord too as well, so if you want to join our Discord, please head over to our website, the link's there, and we can continue the conversation there, and love to find out kind of what your approach is, and maybe what's worked for you. If you've been in a club that was either on the decline and you kind of came in and helped revive it a little bit, or you're in a club that was very active and doing a lot of activities, and what you did to kind of get involved, or what you got we'll say, Todd, roped in to get involved. And so with that, let's kind of wrap things up here. As always, thank you for joining the Live Free and Ham podcast community. Remember, you can always, if you haven't subscribed, you can connect with the show as always by leaving us a show on our iTunes and on our website. If you do leave a review, we'll make sure we read it in our next show. You can always contact us on social media for the latest information, shows, and content. And you can support the show through Patreon, our Buy Us a Beer links, and those are all in our show notes and website, as every bit always helps our show. And if you want to reach out to any one of our hosts, you can reach all four of us at our website at livefreeandham.com. As always, thanks again for listening, and from all of us at Live Free and Ham, 7-3.
7-3.
73.